Welcome back to World Studies. Hopefully you have taken your Chapter 18 quiz. Please make sure to remember to put that back in your packet along with the test for Chapter 17. Make sure you have all of that ready to go when you turn that packet in. Last two times we talked about the causes of World War II. Now we're going to talk today and tomorrow about the course of the war. The Axis powers had the advantage. They had prepared extensively for war. They had the element of surprise, the will to fight, and they used brutal strategies and force to win. However, errors made and the Allies' will to survive will give the Allies the edge in the war. Letter A, principal theaters of conflict. Before we even go on, let me just give you some knowledge for you. This won't be on the test. The term principal theater, when we're talking about wars, has to do with the idea that there are two theaters, two areas in which the war is going to take place. Well, more than two, actually. One of these theaters, locations of conflict, will be in Western Europe. Another one will be located in Eastern Europe, and then there will be another one in the Pacific. So principal theaters of conflict, that just has to do with the areas of where the war takes place. Again, that's not going to be testable. That's just for your further knowledge. So let's get started. Number one, Western Europe. Look in your books at page 335. It shows you a map of Europe during World War II. It shows you, first of all, in the darkest color, the major Axis powers, and then it shows the areas that they were able to take control. It also shows the neutral countries, and then the other countries who were involved in the conflict. In spring of 1940, Germany invaded and defeated Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Denmark fell quickly. Hitler didn't want the Allies to establish military bases in Norway, so he attacked and defeated it as well. And when German troops moved on to the Netherlands and Belgium, British and French troops predictably sent troops into Belgium to counterattack. Germany saw this move coming and sent another force south of Belgium that swept around French defenses. Within a month, the Allies found themselves trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. Germany's Air Force, here's a German word for you, it's called the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. While trapped at Dunkirk, rather than letting the army finish the Allies off, Hitler decided to let the Luftwaffe do it. However, the weather interfered. The Allied forces miraculously escaped from Dunkirk due to bad weather and civilian boats from Britain. It is difficult to understand the evacuation of Allied forces from the beaches at Dunkirk as anything less than an act of God. Fog, rain, and low cloud cover prevented the Luftwaffe from bombing this area for 9 days. In addition, the channel was unusually calm and mild winds blew from the east instead of the north, as they often do. These conditions made it possible for more than 800 vessels, everything from destroyers to fishing boats, to carry the soldiers to safety. If you're wondering, was God involved in this war at all, I would say this is the most obvious example. Had the British and French troops been wiped out at this point, who knows how much worse the war could have been without them involved. Shortly thereafter, France did fall to Germany. Northern France was occupied, while southern France had a puppet French government to represent German interests. Civilians continued to resist German occupation. The German Luftwaffe also bombed Britain, but failed to demoralize or defeat it. The bombing was in preparation for a land invasion. After bombing many military sites, however, Germany began attacking major cities like London in order to kill civilians and destroy British morale. However, this only strengthened British resolve. The British Royal Air Force destroyed many German bombers and fighters. In anger, Hitler abandoned his planned invasion of Britain and will look for a new victim. I wonder who that could be. Number 2. Another theater of conflict that took place was in Eastern Europe. While Hitler was invading Western Europe, the Soviet Union took advantage of the confusion by invading parts of Poland and taking control of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. In the summer of 1941, Germany surprise attacked the Soviet Union, taking large amounts of territory and inflicting many casualties. I was foreshadowing this betrayal in the last video, and now we can see it taking place. The attack began on June 22nd with 3 million Nazi troops rushing into Russia along an 1,800-mile front. The Nazis had a non-aggression pact with the Soviets, but Hitler wanted Russia's vast oil reserves and other natural resources. The Nazis captured thousands of prisoners, took 500,000 square miles in territory, and inflicted nearly 5 million casualties on the Russians. And yet, they failed to win the fight. Victory eluded Germany as the Russian winter and heavy resistance grounded the German offense. Temperatures fell to 40 degrees below zero, and I don't know about you, but that's pretty cold, especially for a Floridian. German equipment stopped working. Even when spring came, Russian resistance continued to slow the German advance. By 1943, Soviet forces would begin pushing the Nazis back. Number 3, a third theater of conflict was in North Africa. Italy tried but failed to take North Africa early on in the war. While Germany devastated the Allies in Europe, Italy thought it could easily conquer North Africa. But British troops were more than enough to stop the Italian forces. In fact, over 100,000 Italians were captured. So in the spring of 1941, German reinforcements led by General Erwin Rommel nearly brought the Axis powers victory. Despite a lack of supplies and adequate forces, General Rommel advanced into Egypt and nearly defeated the British located there. There's a story told that I want to relate to you guys. The story goes like this. The German army was marching through the desert. You got to make sure you understand, North Africa is mostly desert, very dry, very inhospitable climate. Water is essential for the survival of anyone, much less the survival of an army. Well, the German army was on the move, and as they were marching, they came across these pipes in the desert. Well, through quick investigation, they realized these water pipes led directly to the Allied camps. Well, Germans realized, hey, if we cut off the water supply to the Allies, we can defeat the Allied forces without even having to engage them. They lose their water, they either have to evacuate or, of course, they thirst to death. So, the German troops decided to cut open the water supplies, and of course not to want to waste any water. They began guzzling down the water themselves, drinking it up, enjoying it as much as they can. Well, unfortunately for the Germans, the water that the Germans were drinking, have you ever been in a situation in which you are so thirsty that when you get that water, you don't even taste the water. You're just trying to guzzle it down, right? Well, for the Germans, they were so thirsty, they didn't realize it at first. But after a little while, they came to realize they weren't drinking water. The Germans had broken through these pipes that was transporting salt water to the Allied camp. The Allies were trying to find a way of getting rid of salt from salt water to make it drinkable. Well, the Germans had been drinking the salt water. Well, you know what happens if you drink salt water. You actually get more dehydrated. Now, whether or not this story actually, shortly after this event took place, the Allies started winning the battles in North Africa. The Axis power started losing. Now, whether or not this story, was the actual turning point in World War II, that's up for debate. It is a humorous and interesting story worth mentioning. By 1942, British forces led by Bernard L. Montgomery defended Egypt and defeated the German forces in North Africa. With the help of American forces attacking from the west, Montgomery's British forces were able to force the Germans to surrender. That's all the notes that we're going to cover for today. Hope you all have a good rest of the day. Be good, do good. Bye.